Welcome back to CEEN Caribbean News. It's now time to go in depth. Jamaicans went to the polls on Thursday, February 25, to elect a new government. The People's National Party, which was in charge of the country's government for the last 5 years, was challenged for the post by the Jamaica Labour Party. Preliminary results announced 4.5 hours after the polls were closed on Thursday gave the lead to the Jamaica Labour Party in a 33 to 30 seats count. However, on the weekend, the constituency of St. Mary Southeastern, which was confirmed for the JLP's Dr. Norman Dunn, was overturned in favor of the PNP's Winston Green. This brings the latest count to 32 seats for the JLP and 31 seats for the PNP. On Monday, the Director of Elections, Orit Fisher, noted that the constituency of St. Thomas Western was being recounted. So as Jamaica waits the recounts of the final results, of which the Electoral Office says will be released on Wednesday, we turn to attorney Dr. Lloyd Barnett to discuss the constitutional challenges that may arise from this conundrum. Welcome to Indepth, Dr. Barnett.
Good evening. Good evening all.
Now, what are the legal possibilities that could come out of this situation?
Well, it seems that the recounts are headed for either a 32 to 31 or 33 to 30 result. In the case of the 32 to 31, there would be a very an even slimmer majority, and that would pose naturally the challenges of governing with such a slim majority. But it is not impossible. It can be done.
As the recounts continue, under what circumstances would it be possible to ask citizens to vote in a snap election?
Well, whoever is Prime Minister can call the election at any time, so that if it becomes impossible to govern effectively, then the Prime Minister would be entitled to and probably in duty bound to, in the interest of the country, to have a new election. That has been done in many countries where it is difficult to govern because of the closeness of the election.
Okay, so at this time, they have not been able to announce who really is the winner as recounts in several constituencies continue. In this situation, any at all, is there any room in which an election could be called, another election could be called so soon?
No, I don't think an election could be called at this point because we are still in the processes of the election which has just been held. Those processes are still, being worked out. If a new government is appointed, or if and when a new government is appointed, because even if the PNP were to be declared the winner at the end, then the Prime Minister would be reappointed. And in effect, there would be a new government, although by the same party. And the Prime Minister would be entitled to appoint a new set of ministers from the existing membership of the party in the House.
Now, in the event that the recounts keep the victory for the Jamaica Labour Party with only a one-seat margin, what do you envision would be the pros and cons for the government?
Well, the government would have a very challenging task of governing with just a one-seat majority, because the first order of business in the Parliament will be the appointment of a Speaker, so that one member of the government side would take the chair, resulting in an equality of votes on the floor. And so the Speaker will have, wherever there is an equality of votes, to exercise a casting vote. That is a very tight ship to run. It would require great discipline and great planning, as well as some measure of cooperation from the opposition to make the country's business proceed smoothly.
Is it possible with a one-seat majority to have legislations passed?
Of course, because, as I say, if you have the normal situation which I have described of one member of the government being appointed as a speaker, you'd have an equality of votes on the floor. And therefore, if the opposition opposes it completely, all the opposition members and all the government members support it, then you'd have an equality of vote and the speaker would have a casting vote. And the speaker, being a Jamaica Labour Party nominee, would be expected to vote in favor of the Jamaica Labour Party.
Is this political conundrum likely to affect appointments to the Senate?
No, whoever is Prime Minister appoints 13 members, whoever is leader of the opposition appoints 8. So the Senate position is quite fixed and stable.
And that will remain as is regardless of who is in power?
Yes, the Prime Minister appoints 13, the leader of the opposition 8, and that figure remains unchangeable.
For a candidate like Dr. Norman Dunn, who was declared the winner of St. Mary Southeastern and then the seat was retracted, what legal actions can he take at this point?
Well, there's the legal action that everybody can take who is a candidate and who has lost is to seek a recount. That recount is done by the returning officer. If the returning officer's result is unsatisfactory, then you seek a magisterial recount. And that count will be done by the resident magistrate who has been appointed to deal with the matter, depending on where the application is filed for the recount. If that fails, you can still file an election petition in the Supreme Court, the election court, which is headed by a Supreme Court judge, and that will be determined at that level.
How long does such a process usually take?
You mean the right of the election petition?
Yes.
It can take more than a year, as we have had in the past. It can be a very long-winded and protracted process. So the principle is that it should be dealt with expeditiously, but we have had occasions in which it has dragged out over many, many months.
Thank you very much for speaking with us, Dr. Barnett, and for sharing.
Pleasure.